record. Okay, so welcome everyone. And yeah, I was just saying that we're just going to have a discussion today, quick half-hour discussion about visitors. What's in it for us inviting visitors, why we would, you know, why we would invite visitors, how we can invite visitors, yeah, and this came out of a discussion Paul and I were having one day. So I thought this is something we should be sharing. So, Paul, do you want to take it away, start the conversation?
Absolutely. I can certainly do that. For those who don't know me, my name is Paul Longstaff. I am a director consultant here in Melbourne Central for BNI. I look after the Business by the Beach chapter in Brighton, and my home chapter is BNI Innovation in St. Kilda. So that's what my background. And yes, talking about bringing visitors to a BNI meeting. And that's a challenge for a lot of us. We're not used to reaching out and bringing people to a venue and so on and get them all, coming to our meeting. And a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. You say, well, why would you do it? What's in it for the member to bring a visitor? Because everybody thinks, oh, I got to get my stats up. They're going to hit me over the head if I don't go and bring one visitor a month, blah, blah, blah. No, you're bringing the reason you bring a visitor is to make more money. This is a money-making exercise for you. Yeah, BNI will probably benefit in some way. Great, but it's for you. Why? It's the way they can get to know you better. You say, well, why is that? Well, inviting somebody to a BNI meeting is a low-risk way for a person in your network or even a new person to you to get to know you. And as we know, with any sales process, it takes 5 or 7 touches, and the numbers vary between speakers, but let's say 5 or 7 touches with a connection to hopefully then convert them to a client. Well, BNI and having them at a BNI meeting provides you with several of these touches. So what do? You invite them to the meeting, say, hey, how would you like to meet my business network? You sit there and you go and introduce them to some of your network before the meeting. Well, they get to meet a few neat people right then and there. Then you go and you bring them into the formal meeting. And don't forget, during the meeting, they'll hear you speak at least twice. Where you stand up and, this is the I want and this is the I have. So they get to see you speak or hear you speak and see you interact with this group. And hey, if you have a feature presentation, then that's double the bonus there. Then finally, the meeting wraps up and you're having networking again. They're now talking to you and your network, now having gotten to know you a bit. So all of a sudden, your relationship with that person, whoever it is that much warmer. And then after that, they might come to you and say, hey, Paul, I like what I heard in there. Can we have a coffee? I'd like to talk to you about one of the problems I got at work. Yeah, good. And all of a sudden, you can get drawn into a discussion. And even if that doesn't relate to you, you might have just introduced them to somebody like a plumber or a lawyer, somebody that they need right now. And if nothing else, your stakes in their eyes have just gone up because you've become a very useful person to them. Why? This guy or this gal is well networked. He or she knows everybody. Fantastic. And it helps them move the ball down the field for their business. So the point is, bringing a visitor to BNI can really help you out. How's that for a starting point, Vicki?
That was great. Yes, that's definitely what I've found too. I've invited people so that they can get to know what I do, because maybe not appropriate just to come out and say it in the middle of a conversation. But hey, come and check out my meeting and my network and yeah, and then some of them have actually decided that they love BNI and gone on to join as well, and others haven't. But it's something that then they may decide at some point that it's for somebody else that they're talking to, and they know about it. They can then invite, or connect them with us.
That's
and the
right.
other thing, we're known as connectors. Then, people in my daughter's school community have come to me and said, I think you're the right person to ask, Vicki. Do you know an electrician? So happens I do.
Funny that.
Yeah.
But not only that, you say, well, what's in it then for the visitor? And of course, even with the visitors who might not know you so well, oh, are you trying to sell me something? No. We're here to connect with other business people because business people, entrepreneurs find it a bit of a lonely experience. Even their families, unless the families are full of entrepreneurs, they don't understand what you're doing. How would you like to talk to some business people who do get where you're at? And in our meeting, you'll find some people a little further down the road than you are, and some people who are not quite as far along as you are on the business trail, on the business growth trail. But you get to talk to these people, share ideas, share concerns. You find out you're not alone, which is a fantastic thing. But we were saying that even this morning, I was talking to somebody who was a makeup artist, and we had the opportunity, didn't know her, just happened to be sitting beside me at the table, and had the opportunity to talk to her, get to know her a bit, and say, well, what are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for a referral partner. So, well, who are you looking for a referral partner? I'd love to talk to a wedding celebrant. Well, it just so happened I happen to know one. I said, well, how's your business going? Yeah, it's growing like gangbusters, but I have much greater ambitions than this. I said, well, would you like some help doing that? She said, absolutely. I thought, well, could a business coach help you? You better believe it. I'm really running out of ideas just what I could do to grow this business any faster. I said, let me introduce you to one. I walked her over to the business coach in the room. I said, there you go. And then I said, well, it's funny. You're in the beauty business. It just so happens the president of my chapter, my home chapter, does beauty mirrors. And he can show you a bunch of products he's got, but also you guys are both swimming in the same industry. You might have some people you can refer each other to. Would you like that introduction? She said, absolutely. Now, my question to you is this. Was it worthwhile for that visitor to come to that meeting this morning? All of a sudden, she has 3 ways to grow her business at a great rate of knots. So, just saying, this is what's in it for them. This is what they can get out of it. And all of a sudden, they are not the same. It wasn't just sitting at the side of the room and just, watching us do what we do. No. This person can now move the ball down the field in her business because the connection she made at BNI.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think the thing with visitors is none of us know where it can go, and there's so many wonderful places it can go. Yeah. So once they get there.
Well, they don't. Oh, that's right. And even the funny thing I found was even people that know you might never have seen you in this kind of forum. One-to-one is one thing, but you bring a supplier along and you do, you say, here's my I have and I want kind of section. You say, gee, Paul, I didn't realize you do that kind of stuff. Let me show you this stuff over here. All of a sudden, we're talking about a new range of products that we hadn't talked about just because I happened to mention something in one of my presentations. How about a customer? You have a customer there. A couple of things. If you're talking in front of the customer, I had somebody there that knew me for years, but didn't realize how my business had grown. Why? Because the one-on-one situation is one thing, but when they hear the breadth of what you offer, they said, wow, Paul, I didn't realize you did that kind of stuff. Let me talk to you about my other business interests, and maybe we can work on that. So all of a sudden I've opened the door, and these are people I know. And that's what's so scary about this stuff. The other thing with the customer is, here's something for you. Why don't you ask your customer to give, their bit about what is it like to work with, in my case, work with Paul. And he or she stands up and says something and might shed what I do in a brand new light. And everybody goes, I'd like to have a bit of that. Why? Customer selling benefits. They're not trying to sell Paul, they're selling benefits. Look at how great my business has now gone because of working with Paul. Well, might be a few people in the room who want some of that. Just saying.
Yeah, it's perfect, actually. I really went for it. I mean, I've been in BNI 8 years, and often, some chapters will say, oh, who do you want in the room? And so, when your presentation's coming up, and that's great. But I actually focused on, my feature presentation was 2 weeks ago, and I just focused on inviting to my presentation. Come along, come along to my meeting. I'm presenting. I'd love to have you there. I'd love your support. And I was asking neighbours on the beach, and I was asking, all sorts of people. Anybody I was talking to on the phone. Hey, do you want to come to my BNI? It was a Zoom one, and so I had people coming in from interstate, and it was great. And I had a real collection of people. And, I didn't know whether they were going to get something out of what I said, whether I'd get a sale from it, or whether it was something about in the room. So, who they would meet, whether they'd be interested in BNI. There was just so many possibilities as far as I was concerned. And I think, too, it's a great way of building our own credibility as well. So, because people know you're a part of something bigger. So yeah, actually we were talking, we've got a few people here today from Melbourne Fellowship online and an online only chapter. And we were talking about a bit of a niche for us could be like mobile dog groomers and, other mobile businesses. So
I know the trades would love it. A lot of tradies like it. Why? Because they like to get up at the crack of dawn and they like to go on and be on site.
Yes.
And usually the person who's a member of your chapter is like, has got a team underneath him or her. And they'll say, well, let me get these guys started. Then I'll jump in the vehicle and I'll talk to you. And then after they're done, they pack up and they go and, chew on somebody's ear for not doing something right. But the point is they're there, they're on site, they're ready to participate in your meeting because they've launched everybody. They've briefed them all. They launched everybody. At 8:30, you're all done. Fantastic. They go back on site. They don't lose any time. So I know a lot of trades don't want to come because they don't want, especially these days, they're all running like mad things. The online chapter gives them the opportunity to participate in this network. They know they got to do it. But this is also a time where they're available and they don't see themselves as wasting time because they can switch it on, they're in, they participate, and then they step out and they go on to their work site. So that might be something, as I say, for the online chapter.
Well, and even, some of the building inspectors, and the building inspector in my chapter and the electrician in my chapter, they're often on Zoom in their car.
Yep.
So that's perfect. Now, one thing, Paul, you directed me to the other day was a YouTube video.
Yes.
An English lady in BNI in England, and it was 100 visitors in 15 minutes, and both you and I went, whoa, we're playing small.
I'm playing very small. Absolutely. Now, for you BNIers, well, in fact, it's available on YouTube. So even if, for those who are watching, if you're not a BNIer, you can still see it. Go on YouTube. It's called BNI Ed, short for education, slot 14. So BNI Ed slot 14. And there's a bunch of videos in the BNI Ed slot series, all recorded in the UK. This particular one, number 14, is exactly that. I'm gathering she's an area director. The way she presents herself, I get the impression that she's an area director. How she went and said, well, let me see if I can find 100 visitors in 15 minutes. And we go, oh, yeah. Well, I'll give you some of the highlights from it, just because we did it at the chapter I look after today, and it started getting scary, okay? Right. Well, what she did was, this particular chapter meets at a hotel. Because I guess the travel distances and that in the UK, she decided to stay at the hotel overnight and then be there first thing in the morning for the meeting. So she said, well, let's see if I can come up with 100 visitors. And she gave herself 15 minutes to do it. So the first thing she did was she went by and looked at the wall. Now, in a lot of hotels and that, and in this case, we were at the Royal Brighton Yacht Club this morning. There's a wall full of business cards, stacks of business cards. She said, and the thing that really hit me, and it should be obvious because I walk by this wall every time I go, is these people have their cards here because they're all looking for business. Well, BNI are the experts. BNI members are the experts. Helping people find business. That's what we do. So here's the wall. So she went and grabbed everybody's card off there. She then asked the concierge for the local tourist map. And of course, he was suitably supplied it to her. She goes through, and of course, on a tourist map, there's lots of advertising. And so she just started circling everybody who's advertising. Why? Because they're looking for business. And then she went into the car park. She took her phone and started taking pictures. What do you think they took pictures of? Sign writing.
On writing on cars, yeah.
On cars. Everybody's got the car sign writing. Why do they sign write on the car? They're looking for business. And maybe you can help them. Mm. And magically, she came up with 100 of doing things like that and more so. Oh, local paper. So like effectively the leader for the suburb. So not, national news, this is the local paper, full of ads.
And you know what? I personally have spent way too much money on ads that got me nowhere. And it's like, if somebody had rung me and told me about BNI at that time, I think that would have been awesome. Yeah.
Well, there you go. And I said, okay, that's nice. And so we were all, Vicki and I were kind of gobsmacked about this because we've been in the game for a little bit and I hadn't thought of that. And so I went to Business by the Beach. I just, for various reasons, I got there a bit late. So I said, well, I don't want to go and, just kick my way into the room. It's going to be a bit loud and obvious. So why don't I just drag my feet a bit, just see what I can find? So I went by the wall at the front door and counted 35 business cards. 35, that's a third of the total of 100, just business cards. There were also flyers for different businesses. So they didn't have their business card there, they're also flyers. I didn't count those, I only counted the business cards. So 35 out of my 100 just from the wall at the front door that I've been walking through for the last year or two. This is scary, okay? And I'm sure if I'd wandered through the car park, I would have done the same thing, taking pictures of the sign writing and so on. Do you think these guys are a bit excited?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking that they're obviously attending the venue quite often. So if somebody rang and said, hey, did you know there's a business networking meeting at your venue that you frequent? Would you like to come and meet everyone? They probably would, wouldn't they?
They probably would.
A few of them would.
Well, that's right. Yeah. Come on down.
Yeah.
Especially if you made it a visitor's day. Make it a special visitor's day so they can all meet each other. Come on down, check it out, check out the club. Maybe you haven't had a breakfast here, whatever you want to paint. Just bring them down to meet all these other eager business people. And you provide a great opportunity. Now, some people on the broadcast today are going to say, well, Paul, what do I say to people on the phone? Well, it just so happens, if Vicki would like, I can send along to Vicki another chapter. I think they're in the US. Say, here's all the phone scripts that you use. If you know the person, if you don't know the person, if you just found the person, let's say on a business card or something, bam, bam, bam. Here's some phone scripts that you can use just to see, would you like to come along to the meeting on Thursday, whatever it is.
That'd be great, Paul. I'll make sure everybody gets that. Yeah.
As I said, it was, I'm sitting here, as I said, but I've been doing this for 4 years, and I think I'm just shaking my head. I said, I never thought of doing such a thing.
No. And this really does, build our credibility up in the chapter and outside of the chapter. And also it gets us out of our comfort zone, and getting out of our comfort zone can also help with our own personal and business development.
Well, it also takes the pressure. Doing something like this takes the pressure off you to say, well, who in my network can I invite? I had somebody in another chapter tell me the other day, say, well, Paul, when I joined this chapter, I had all these people in my network who I lined up to come along, and that was great. My visitor numbers look good. And he says, now I'm all tapped out. What do I do? You do stuff like this. You reach further.
Yeah, and our last Quickbites was leveraging LinkedIn, and so I'll be making that link available very shortly for people to watch that recording. So we've got a number of ways we can reach out when we feel that we don't know anyone. Now, funnily enough, though, I think it's always about the people you're about to meet. It's even the people, like I was on a dog walk the other day and ran into the neighbour down the street, and he's a builder and he was complaining about not enough business. I said, oh, hey, do you want to come along to my networking meeting? He goes, oh yeah, that sounds good. So it's the conversations you're about to have, the people you're about to meet, and it's about having it front of mind for you to be listening out for what people might be looking for.
It's also finding venues where you can find, as we said, find new people, because as we say, you can easily tap out your existing network for visitors and so on. And one favorite thing of mine is going to networking events now around Melbourne. I realize this might have a greater reach than Melbourne, but around Melbourne, we have the Chamber. So the Victorian Chamber runs 2 events. One is called Fast Forward. The other one is called Business After Dark. Fast Forward is 2 hours of business speed dating. And you walk out of, and people laugh at that. I said, but you walk out of there, you can walk out of there with between 35 and 50 cards.
Yep.
That's a good place to start.
Yep.
What I did with that, last time it was a smaller group. I got 20 cards out of there, and I think I ended up with 6 visitors to BNI out of it, and a few prospects, which isn't bad going.
Not bad.
That's a good place. That's a good place to go. As I said, the Business After Dark, it's a different venue, but you meet with slightly larger companies if that's your target. For those out Dandenong way, go to the Dandenong Chamber. They're connected to everybody. Not only that, it only costs you $16 to get in. And you talk to everybody out there, and people say, well, Paul, it's Dandenong. I said, yeah, but you don't understand. It's one of the fastest growth areas of the city. Every second industrial lot I drive by when I go out that way is empty, but has a crane on it or something because they're busy building something. And you go into the chamber, and everybody's out there and they're open. Why? Because everything's growing like mad. I can't keep up and everything else. And all the triggers that we have, for inviting people to meetings, are filled there. Because these people are madly growing. They need help. Well, it just so happens we can help them.
Absolutely. And it's the double whammy, the 2 birds with 1 stone thing, because, you're inviting somebody to a BNI meeting where they will hear you speak about your business. So it's pretty exciting, actually. I'm very excited.
It's very exciting, but not only that, as you get talking to people, say, well, where are you based? Yeah. Well, if they say, well, yes, I belong to the Dandenong Chamber because I'm this one guy was a banker. He says, yeah, I'm at the NAB here locally at the corporate center here for NAB here in Dandenong, but I actually live out, Hawthorne way. I said, well, would you be interested in coming out our way for a meeting? Well, it just so happens I would. Why? It's on the way to work. Just saying, it's not just where they work, but also where they live. And if we're somewhere along the way, they'd like to come by.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we've got a few minutes left. Do you want to join the conversation, contribute, ask questions? Just give us some feedback about, is this hitting the mark for you, or what else you'd like to know? Should we just keep talking, Paul?
Well, I'll keep talking, but please jump in. I can talk.
Keep talking.
No, well, the thing is, too, especially for the online chapters, I'm also part of a group of BNIers, and I guess former BNIers, that meet overseas. So the chair is based in Copenhagen, but the whole group is full of business consultants just like me. So all of a sudden we're chatting amongst ourselves. Well, the point to you is this. Yes, we're located in Melbourne, but you have an online chapter has reach around the world. You can talk to all sorts of folks. And people say, well, Paul, is that real? I don't do business out that way. Well, let me tell you a story. I happened to go a few times to BNI Rome International. So yes, it's in Rome, Italy. It is the only English-speaking chapter of BNI in Italy. And I got to know their president and everything else and visited 2 or 3 times. We've had conversations from time to time since then. All of a sudden, I get a referral from the president of BNI Rome International. She is a travel agent. Her name is Anna Sarah. She is a travel agent. And it just so happens she had a member of one of her travel agent groups is based in the Gold Coast, who became my next client.
There you go.
Just saying, this is Rome, okay?
Yeah.
So this, what I can't say enough of, you're being online, you have magnificent reach. And who knows, you might be able to find people that can't get into a regular BNI. There's a lot to the state of Victoria. Most of us live in Melbourne, but not everybody. Is there a place that's underserved? I think if you go to Bendigo or Ballarat, you might find they might not have too many chapters out that way if they have one at all. And those are secondary cities. But who cares? You're in the same time zone. You provide value. If there's and a lot of these people, especially Bendigo, Ballarat, Geelong, they'll have some interactions with Melbourne. It might be relevant for them. Maybe there's a way we can talk to people out that way. And the online chapter can suddenly have visitors from these regional areas. Well, how? And then you do the BNI question. You can tell a BNI at any networking event, because they're the only people that will say, and how can I help you? And BNIers just stand out like nothing else because everybody else is trying to sell you something. BNIers just say, how can I help you? And then you become everybody's best friend because you have your network, right? Funny how that works.
But yeah, my experience out in the world is, I mean, the giver's gain, as far as I'm concerned, should work everywhere. Doesn't necessarily. Whereas in BNI, we have that agreement, and that's what works when we hold ourselves accountable to that.
That's really good, and people find it as it makes it easy to do business. Why? If you ask me, how can I help you? All of a sudden, I'm talking about me. And you hear about WIFM. It's everybody's favorite radio channel. What's in it for me? And I'm sitting there, hey, you wanted me to talk more about myself? As you can probably tell, I do that rather well. I enjoy it. So let's help people do the same.
Yeah, let's show them, invite them to an opportunity, and then the rest is up to them. Yeah. So I hope that's been helpful. So anybody got anything they want to add or?
Yeah. Thanks, Paul and Vicki. My apologies for coming a bit late due to the previous call. Paul, it's interesting how you mentioned you joined another online group internationally. As a matter of fact, I've been contemplating joining some of the online Melbourne group from time to time, although I'm a part of the Q chapters at the moment. But since as a buyer agent for investor nationally, I'd be able to touch base with various professionals, especially right now is conveyancer in Queensland, in Perth, and other places.
Yep.
So I've been thinking that previously while we were in lockdown, one of my conveyancer in Adelaide actually be able to join online, but right now we are pretty much converted back to in person, which is great for our chapter. But then I've been thinking, would it be good that I still somehow connect to some of the online group here, and then have some way to connect to the other BNI professional a little bit more for those that I've interacted.
That's right. Once you're in BNI, as I said, the world's your oyster. There are over 10,000 chapters now. And what I helped a client do, I said, who are you looking for? He's a BNI, and he says, I'm looking for people in the health and wellness industry. Of course, one of our contact spheres. I want on BNI Connect. And very few people actually do this, but I looked on BNI Connect and dialed in health and wellness. And you just get a whole list of people in the health and wellness industry. I said, well, could you use a chiro? Can you use a naturopath? Can you use somebody who's a nutritionist? Can you use this person? Oh, yes, no, yes. Who are these people? I said, they're BNIers. Once you see them here, just send them an invite, say, hey, would you like to do a one-to-one? I work a lot with chiropractors. I do a lot of business with chiropractors. Love to talk to you, see if there's a way we can do business. Send them a request for a one-to-one. Being a BNIer, they'll probably say, yeah, I'll have a chat with you. I don't know how this is going to work, but I'll have a chat with you. And like magic, you're just building up your network like you wouldn't believe with people in your contact sphere. So the magic contact sphere is beautiful if it can all happen in person in your own chapter. But when you're online, you can make the world's largest contact sphere of all you bunch of people referring business to each other across Australia. That sounds fantastic to me. Because at the end of the day, it's just doing business.
Yep. Yes. And if we do have some people come into our chapters that don't fit for whatever reason, then that's when you keep Vicki in the loop and ask me to help them find a chapter that suits them. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. We try to tell everybody that everybody can find a home in BNI. Because as you know, every chapter is different. So where are you comfortable? Why? You got to do this every week. You got to see these people every week. If this is what you want. Is this where you want to be? Is this what you want to do? Is this who you want to speak with every week? So we're making a point now. In fact, funny enough, we had a person who put in an application for our chapter in St. Kilda show up at Brighton this morning. And one of our senior team there was trying to sell her on joining their chapter. So I just took the other person aside and said, hey, wherever this person can thrive in BNI, that's the job. Yeah, we'd love to have her. She's a lovely person, love to have her in the chapter. But at the end of the day, we want everybody in BNI to thrive. And if you're there thriving, we won't have to worry about retention.
No, that's right. Yeah, perfect.